Hi, I'm Mary Marquette Bug, and this is how you make a CDC patterned hospital face mask from cloth. All right, so I have 2 different 6x9 squares of fabric, and I'm gonna face the sides that eventually I want on the outside. They're gonna face each other. So I have the print that's gonna be on the outside facing up toward me. I would do the same with the back, but it's a solid. Okay, I'm gonna start on the upper line here about midway. Go ahead and set my foot down.
About a 1/4 inch seam allowance.
Yeah, about a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, I'm gonna sew backward then forward. I'm on a bouncy table here. Come about to the edge. I'm gonna lift my foot and turn.
Keep the needle down in the fabric.
Yes. Thank you, Joy. Then I'm gonna lift and set my 10-inch strap, 10 or 11 inch, depending upon if it has any wiggle room in it. I think 10 inches is probably about right. I'm going to go all the way to the top of that seam, close back down, lower my foot, sew over and then back, and then all the way back down. And I'm going to leave about 1 inch from the bottom. I'm going to stop, put my needle down, lift my foot, and then I have these, we've been calling them nubs. So just a shorter strap, it's about 1 inch long. I've been using tweezers because short thumb, I think, maybe is handicapping me. Anyway, so I'm pinching it in half, laying it up against my needle, lowering my foot, holding it in place. I'm going to go over and back, over and back. And then I'm going to come just past the edge of my little strap and put my needle down, turn my foot. But you can see I've come past with my needle, past my little nub.
Otherwise you'll sew it closed.
Yeah, which I've definitely done a handful of times. And sometimes you forget what needs to happen. So it's strap, nub, and then you're going to come all the way down the length to the other end. Leave myself about a 1/4 inch. I'm going to make sure my needle's down. Lift my foot and turn again, and I'm gonna do my next nub. So I'm folding it over.
So that's the bottom that you just sewed.
That's the bottom, and now I'm about to move back up toward the top. Okay, so I'm taking my nub, putting it up against my needle, closing my fabric back down, lower the foot, and then I'm gonna go over and back. And then all the way back up to the top, but I'm gonna try to come to the same height as I did the last time. So I want the top of my string about a 1/4 inch once it's laid down, so you can see. I want them to match where they were on the opposite side. So I'm shooting for the top of my string to be about a 1/4 inch from the top of the fabric, see? So I'm gonna stop here with my needle so I can put my string inside between the 2 folds. Boone, are you helping? All right, so coming toward the top, I'm gonna slow down, put my foot in, put my needle in, lift my foot, and then it really does help me to have the tweezers. I don't know if it's just because I get jittery because of coffee or what, but all right. And then you can see I'm gonna lay that down about a 1/4 inch from the top, maybe a little bit more than that. Lay my foot back down. I'm gonna go over the strap and back. And then I'm going to feel, see, I can feel right here with my fingertip where the edge of the strap is. I'm going to feel and let the needle go just past that, lower it down in, lift the foot and turn, and then move my strap. I feel like I'm doing a pretty good instructional video considering that I've never described what I'm doing right now.
You're moving it out of the way so you don't sew over it.
Right, yeah.
As you sew this almost closed.
Almost close. So I'm coming all the way back toward my initial stitch, my very first stitch. I'm stopping about 2 inches away, and then I'm going to back stitch and let go with my pedal. Raise my needle out, and then I'm going to cut it free, get my string back underneath there, trim this. All right, and now I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip it inside out. So I just put my thumb down in there, and I go to the bottom quarter just like turning sheets. I mean, you know how to turn something inside out. I don't need to tell you that. Anyway, okay.
Right side out.
Right side out. So, there you go. So now this is my box. And what I like to do a lot of times is I make a bunch of boxes, because I've not been ironing anything flat. But a lot of times I'll just make a bunch of boxes and then I'll lay a heavy book on them to kind of like press them. See how this one's pressed real flat?
We've noticed that when we iron them, after sewing them, it makes them really sad looking. They're like really flat and like they look like they've gotten wet outside and just...
All right, so here we go. Now I'm gonna do my pleats. And this by far is what took me the most time to get the hang of, but I'm gonna pinch in the middle.
2 nubs on the bottom and 2 strings on the top.
Yeah, nubs, strings. All right, so I'm going to pinch and push up so that I have a tooth coming down like that, right? And then I pin it with my handy dandy long quilter's pins that you got us. Switch to the other side and pin it. And like, you're gonna want to, especially you, Dad, you're gonna want to be anal retentive about them being exactly the same. And I understand that, but there's no time for it to be totally perfect. Okay, then I'm gonna pinch again with about 3/4 of an inch at the top, free. I'm gonna pinch again, and that becomes my bottom, and I'm gonna bring it down. And you see, I want this to make a straight line. This to be straight. All right, so I'm going to pin that guy.
After you pin that, can I say something?
Okay. Go ahead, Joy.
After you pin it.
Oh, okay. Burped. I'm about to need to go take that stuff to the Myrtes. Okay. All right.
Okay, so you'll see that this is a straight line and this is a straight line all the way across. So it's not so important that these match each other, right? But it's really important that the sides match each other. Does that make sense? So that it's not like this is 1/4 inch and then this one is like way down here.
Peyton struggled at the beginning with that.
I might send this to Peyton.
We all struggled with that at the beginning.
But
You'll have to edit that out.
Yeah, this width needs to be the same as this width. Not like way down there.
Okay, so I'm going to take another pinch I want to leave a little bit of room down here because I don't want a big fold down here on top of my nub. I want to leave some room. So I'm going to take this really just to the top of my nub. I think it's okay to call it nub. We're going to have to upload it to YouTube.
We are not uploading this to YouTube.
Well, it's not going to send to their phone. Okay, and then I'm going to come to the other side. All right. Pinch and put. All right. Okay. Now for the fun part. These are the finishing touches. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to start in the upper right-hand corner up here. I'm going to put that under my foot. This is my first part of my stitch. I'm going to start at the top, lower my needle. I'm going to sew forward and then back a handful of times over that strap. Okay, and now I'm going to let myself go all the way down to the bottom. I get nervous sewing over the pins because I broke a needle doing that earlier. So I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom, put my needle in, lift my foot. I go ahead and take these out and put them away. Turn, and I'm going to go as much as I can. I'm going to go straight back up that line. And then I come, because I know that I didn't leave myself a ton of extra in there, I come pretty close to the top of the mask with my needle across the top.
Because you're trying to close that.
Yeah, I'm closing it. And then I want to make sure that this little gap comes together without a ton of strings hanging out of it, and so that it's like seamless when we're done. So I let this kind of overhang a little bit, right? Okay.
The top overhang the bottom.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna feed this through using my ring finger as a little guide so that it's straight across. And I take my time with this stitch more than any other one because it's the one that you'll see if you're using a more conspicuous thread. So sometimes we're using a white thread on like a solid fabric and you really notice it and you can see all the wonky waves if it's not straight. So, all right, so I lifted my foot, turned, and I'm gonna come down and go back up on this one too. So straight down. And take your time, make sure that your folds don't accidentally come undone, because that I've had that happen. Mom, you know that, but anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna come to the bottom, lift my foot, put my needle down, lift my foot, and get these guys out of the way. Give me your little sunflower. All right, put the foot back down, straight back up, tracing the same line, and then I'm gonna go back and forward a handful of times, just like I did on that other side when I first started. All right, lift my foot, pull out, and then I'm gonna trim up any of my extra strings here.
Let's see your thread on the back. See that perfect line that you made?
I'm telling you, I've
really
gotten
good at it.
I've gotten so much.
You see it?
Thanks, Joy. Hang on. Get these guys in here. Looky there. Not too shabby.
No,
just a little bit. There's a little wonky right there, but mostly.
Looks really good.
Clean off all my extra strings. And then I've been using a bobby pin.
I use a safety pin.
Down here at the... Pull that through. Kind of straighten it out. Flatten it out. Make it all nice for the person. Take that off and do myself a little overhand knot.
Try to knot it right at the end.
Knot it right at the end there. And what we've been doing with our strings is I've been cutting them with a heat knife, but you could also just cut them to length and then kind of burn the end off so that it doesn't fray.
That's what I was doing for a while, is I was I was making the strings, before tying the knot, and then I'd just like light them with a little lighter for a second.
All right, so here's what my finished mask product looks like. I usually, in order to mail them, we've been putting them in those smaller packages. I fold it across like that, put my strings inside, and then just kind of peek it out just a little bit, fan it, you know, presentation. So there's my finished mask, and this is what it looks like on.
Oh man, it looks so good.
Thanks, Joy. Biggest fan.
Oh, it looks so good.
Thanks, babe.
Perfect.
And that is how you make a CDC hospital mask. You can't see me, but I'm frowning.